The moment you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop chasing closure, not because they miss you, but because they can no longer control you. And what happens next follows 5 unmistakable stages. If this resonates with your experience, pause for a moment, ground yourself, and remind yourself, clarity is not cruelty. You are not responsible for regulating someone else's ego. In the first stage, disbelief sets in because the narcissist's internal world is built on predictability and control. They are accustomed to you responding in familiar ways, questioning yourself, trying to fix misunderstandings, reacting emotionally, or seeking reassurance. When that reaction suddenly disappears, it creates a psychological rupture. Your calm, distance, or silence does not register as final to them at first. Instead, they interpret it as a pause, a mood, or a tactic you will eventually abandon. This assumption protects their fragile sense of superiority and prevents them from confronting the possibility that they are no longer in control. During this phase, the narcissist often behaves as if nothing has changed. They may send neutral messages, reference shared routines, or interact with you in a casual, almost dismissive way. This is not confidence. It is denial. Acknowledging your emotional withdrawal would mean admitting that their influence over you has weakened. That realization is deeply threatening because their self-worth depends on being able to elicit reactions from others. Your lack of response disrupts the feedback loop they rely on to feel validated. Disbelief also functions as a psychological buffer. If they accept too quickly that you have truly disengaged, they would be forced to confront feelings they are unequipped to process: shame, inadequacy, and loss of control. Instead, they minimize the change. They tell themselves you will come back, that you are overreacting, or that this is simply another phase in a familiar cycle. This allows them to maintain an illusion of dominance while they assess whether their usual tactics will still work. At the same time, they quietly monitor you. They pay attention to your tone, your availability, your energy. They may test you with small provocations or light contact, expecting the old emotional response to reappear. When it doesn't, confusion grows beneath the surface. The disbelief stage is marked by this tension, outward normalcy paired with internal destabilization, because your disengagement has introduced something they fear most: unpredictability. In the second stage, the narcissist shifts from denial into urgency. Once it becomes clear that your emotional withdrawal is not a passing phase, anxiety begins to surface. They recognize, even if only subconsciously, that their usual access to your attention, reassurance, and emotional energy is slipping away. This triggers an intensified effort to pull you back in, not from genuine reflection or accountability, but from a deep need to restore their sense of control and validation. Their behavior often becomes suddenly attentive and focused. You may notice increased communication, unexpected kindness, or expressions of affection that seem out of character given the history. They might reminisce about shared memories, highlight good times, or speak as though the bond between you is uniquely irreplaceable. This surge of warmth can feel confusing, especially if it contrasts sharply with prior neglect or mistreatment. The key point is that this behavior is reactive, not relational. It is driven by fear of losing access to supply rather than a desire for mutual repair. Promises often appear during this stage. They may claim insight, growth, or readiness to change, framing themselves as newly self-aware. Apologies, if offered, tend to be vague or conditional, avoiding responsibility while still sounding emotionally persuasive. The goal is not resolution, but re-engagement. They are attempting to reignite your emotional investment so the dynamic can return to familiar ground where they feel secure. If warmth alone does not work, the intensity increases. Messages become more frequent, emotional, or dramatic. They may emphasize how much they need you, how lost they feel without you, or how no one else understands them the way you do. This is designed to activate your empathy and sense of responsibility. Your boundaries are perceived as obstacles to be overcome, not signals to be respected. Throughout this stage, the narcissist closely watches your responses for signs of softening. Any reaction, even frustration or hesitation, is interpreted as hope. The urgency continues to escalate until they either regain emotional access or are forced to confront that the old strategies no longer produce the same results. In the third stage, when intensified efforts to pull you back fail, frustration hardens into anger. The narcissist experiences this as a personal threat rather than a relational boundary. Your continued emotional distance challenges their belief that they are entitled to your attention and responsiveness, and this collision often releases rage. The shift can feel sudden, as warmth and pleading are replaced by hostility, criticism, and blame, creating emotional whiplash for the person on the receiving end. This anger is not random. It serves a psychological purpose. By attacking your character, questioning your motives, or accusing you of being heartless, ungrateful, or manipulative, the narcissist attempts to restore a sense of dominance. Devaluation becomes a way to protect their fragile self-image. If they can convince themselves that you are flawed or cruel, they do not have to face the reality that you are choosing distance because the dynamic was unhealthy. During this stage, they may rewrite the narrative of the relationship. Past events are reframed to position them as the victim and you as the aggressor. Your boundaries are portrayed as punishment, abandonment, or betrayal. This distortion allows them to externalize responsibility and avoid confronting their own behavior. The goal is to provoke an emotional reaction that pulls you back into engagement, because even negative attention feels preferable to being ignored. Communication may become cutting or contemptuous. Sarcasm, guilt-inducing statements, and subtle threats can appear, along with attempts to undermine your confidence. They may question your stability, your memory, or your intentions, hoping to destabilize you enough to regain leverage. This is why this stage often feels the most emotionally aggressive. The intensity reflects their internal panic, now expressed as outward hostility. At the core of this stage is the narcissist's inability to tolerate loss of control without attacking the source of that loss. Your calm, silence, or refusal to engage is experienced as rejection, and rejection is something they are psychologically unequipped to process. The rage and devaluation are defensive maneuvers meant to force interaction and reassert power rather than expressions of genuine emotional pain. In the fourth stage, the narcissist's outward aggression softens and collapses into apparent vulnerability. After anger and devaluation fail to provoke the reaction they want, they pivot to victimhood. This shift is strategic, though often unconscious. By presenting themselves as wounded, misunderstood, or abandoned, they attempt to activate your empathy and moral self-doubt. Where rage was meant to intimidate, sadness is meant to bind. They may begin sharing stories of how deeply they are suffering, emphasizing loneliness, depression, or a sense of being broken. Statements are framed to suggest that your emotional distance is the cause of their pain. Rather than acknowledging the impact of their behavior, they portray themselves as someone who has been unfairly left behind. This allows them to avoid responsibility while still pulling emotional focus back onto themselves. Guilt becomes the primary tool in this stage. They may remind you of past sacrifices, moments when they were there for you, or hardships they endured while implying you now owe them care or loyalty. The message is subtle but powerful. If you were a good or compassionate person, you would not maintain this distance. This can be especially effective if you are naturally empathetic or conditioned to prioritize others' emotional needs over your own. This stage can feel confusing because it resembles genuine vulnerability. Tears, regretful language, or self-critical statements may surface. However, these expressions tend to lack true accountability. Apologies, if present, are often wrapped in self-pity or followed by explanations that shift blame back onto circumstances or other people. The focus remains on how they feel rather than on the harm done or the boundaries you have set. The victim stance also serves to repair their self-image. By casting themselves as the injured party, they regain a sense of moral superiority and emotional leverage. If you respond by comforting, explaining, or re-engaging, the dynamic resets, and your needs once again become secondary. This stage persists as long as there is hope that guilt and empathy will succeed where anger and charm did not, reinforcing the cycle they are desperate to preserve. In the fifth stage, when all previous strategies failed to restore emotional control, the narcissist turns outward to regulate their self-image. Your disengagement has created a visible rupture in their sense of identity, and they now seek external validation to stabilize it. This often appears as a sudden new attachment, exaggerated displays of happiness, or carefully curated evidence that they are thriving without you. The purpose is not genuine connection or healing, but reassurance that they are still desirable, powerful, and admired. A replacement is often used symbolically. By quickly attaching to someone new, they attempt to erase the discomfort of rejection and signal superiority. The speed and intensity of these new connections can feel unsettling, especially if they appear performative. Public posts, dramatic declarations, or conspicuous affection are designed to be seen either by you or by others who can reflect approval back to them. This visibility matters because it helps counteract the internal shame triggered by your withdrawal. Alongside replacement, a smear campaign may quietly or overtly emerge. They may share distorted versions of the relationship, portraying you as unstable, cruel, or ungrateful. This serves two functions. It protects their public image and reinforces their internal narrative that they were wronged. By controlling the story, they avoid accountability and reduce the risk that others will question their behavior. Sympathy from others becomes another form of supply. This stage is not about closure. It is about containment. They are attempting to seal the emotional injury by outsourcing validation, even if it is temporary or superficial. If the new source provides admiration, the urgency subsides. If it fails, they may cycle back to earlier tactics, testing whether you are still emotionally reachable. For the person who has disengaged, this stage can be deeply disorienting. It may trigger self-doubt, grief, or a sense of being replaced or erased. Understanding that this behavior is driven by insecurity rather than genuine happiness can help neutralize its impact. The narcissist's outward confidence masks unresolved panic, and their need to be seen as winning reveals how profoundly your emotional withdrawal disrupted the dynamic. In the sixth stage, what often follows is a quieter, more covert phase that can be easily misunderstood as resolution or maturity. Outwardly, the narcissist may appear to withdraw, detach, or suddenly move on, but internally the process is far from complete. This stage is marked by emotional shutdown paired with ongoing surveillance. Having exhausted overt tactics, they reduce visible engagement to protect their ego from further injury while remaining psychologically invested in the outcome. During this phase, they may stop direct contact altogether or keep it minimal and controlled. This withdrawal is not acceptance, it is self-preservation. Continued rejection threatens to deepen their sense of inadequacy, so distance becomes a way to stabilize. However, they often continue monitoring from afar, checking social media, asking mutual connections about you, or quietly tracking changes in your life. Information becomes a substitute for control, allowing them to feel connected without risking direct exposure. This stage can feel unsettling because it creates an illusion of peace. The absence of chaos may prompt you to question whether things were ever that bad or whether they have truly changed. That doubt is part of the psychological residue of the dynamic. The narcissist benefits from this ambiguity as it keeps the emotional door slightly open without requiring them to take responsibility or be vulnerable. Internally, they are recalibrating. They assess whether re-entry is possible, whether enough time has passed for you to soften, or whether circumstances might make you more receptive later. If they sense renewed opportunity, loneliness, stress, or lowered defenses, they may reappear unexpectedly, often acting as though no rupture ever occurred. If not, they continue investing elsewhere while keeping you as a dormant option. This stage reflects their core difficulty with finality. Letting go completely would require acknowledging loss, limits, and personal impact, which threatens their self-concept. By staying psychologically adjacent while emotionally distant, they avoid true closure. For you, recognizing this pattern helps prevent misinterpreting silence as healing or growth, and reinforces the importance of maintaining boundaries even when the noise finally stops. In the seventh stage, what emerges is not dramatic action, but a long-term psychological stance the narcissist adopts once they fully register that control is no longer guaranteed. This stage is defined by chronic narrative fixation. Even when you are no longer present in their life, you continue to exist in their internal story as a symbol rather than a person. They may rarely contact you or do so sporadically, but mentally they revisit the dynamic repeatedly, reshaping it to protect their ego. They often reframe the ending in ways that preserve superiority. In their version, they chose to walk away, they outgrew you, or you were never significant. This reframing is not about truth, but about survival. Accepting that someone willingly disengaged, stayed gone, and did not collapse without them is too destabilizing. By altering the story, they regain a sense of authorship over the outcome. At this stage, Hoover attempts may still occur, but they are less frantic and more opportunistic. A holiday message, a sudden check-in during a vulnerable moment, or a casual reference to the past can surface months or even years later. These attempts are designed to test whether access is still possible. If you respond, the cycle can quietly restart. If you do not, they retreat again, reinforcing the narrative that you were irrelevant or difficult. Emotionally, this stage is marked by unresolved resentment mixed with avoidance. They may feel a lingering irritation that you did not break, did not chase, and did not need them to recover. This unprocessed injury can subtly influence how they treat others, often making them more controlling or guarded in future relationships. Your absence becomes a reference point they measure themselves against, even if they never admit it. What makes this stage deceptive is its silence. There is no obvious conflict, no visible manipulation, and no clear resolution. Yet the dynamic persists internally, frozen in place, because true closure would require self-reflection, accountability, and acceptance of limits, capacities they continue to avoid. In the eighth stage, the focus shifts away from the narcissist's behavior and toward the psychological space created by your sustained disengagement. This is the point at which their influence over your internal world begins to dissolve, even if they continue their patterns elsewhere. What makes this stage significant is not what they do, but what no longer works. Your emotional availability, once central to the dynamic, is no longer accessible, and that absence alters the entire equation. Without your reactions, the narcissist loses a key mirror they use to regulate their identity. Attempts to provoke, impress, guilt, or destabilize you either fail outright or never reach you at all. Over time, this lack of feedback forces them to redirect their energy, not because they have healed, but because there is nothing to extract. This is often when they appear to fade into the background of your life, becoming less relevant and less emotionally charged in your mind. For you, this stage can feel unfamiliar. The nervous system, long conditioned to anticipation and hypervigilance, may struggle with the quiet. There can be moments of delayed grief, anger, or confusion as your body catches up to the reality that the threat is gone. This is not regression, it is integration. You are processing an experience that required suppression while you were still inside it. Clarity deepens here. You begin to recognize how much emotional labor you carried, how often you doubted yourself, and how consistently your needs were minimized. This awareness does not come with urgency. It arrives slowly through contrast, as healthier interactions begin to feel calmer and more reciprocal. The absence of chaos becomes evidence rather than emptiness. This stage is also where self-trust is rebuilt. You no longer need to rehearse explanations or justify your boundaries. The narrative loosens its grip. Even if the narcissist occasionally crosses your mind, the emotional charge is reduced, replaced by distance and perspective. What once felt consuming now feels contained, not because the past was erased, but because it no longer defines your present emotional landscape.